Hello everyone, we'll just wait a few minutes before we get started, and then we'll jump right in. Just give it a few minutes. Okay, I think we'll get started now. Thank you for joining the second in our four-part series, Advanced Talk. My name is Leonie Loftus. I'm the Senior Communications and Policy Officer at Advance. And obviously, as you all know, this is 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence, and we are kind of aiming to talk about the intersection between domestic abuse and women's contact with the criminal justice system. So this particular episode of series is called More Than Safety, the Role of Women's Centres in Ongoing Support and Empowerment. And it explores how women's centres play a transformative role empowering women to navigate life challenges, with a particular focus on the power of therapeutic programs, peer support, and creative workshops. So we obviously have a Q&A function and a chat function. Please do use the chat function to kind of introduce yourselves or chat away. And then, use the Q&A function to ask questions to our panelists at the end. But I'll go straight in and introduce our panelists. So first we have Sona Barbosa, Head of Therapeutic Services at Women's Trust. Sona was born in Guinea-Bissau, West Africa. She lived in Portugal for 20 years and then in London for 25. She trained in clinical psychology, counselling, psychology, Black psychology, CBT, DBT, and project management. She has devoted her professional and personal life to supporting and advocating for those who battle with mental health and emotional difficulties. And her biggest passion is working with women, young people, and the BAME community. So Women's Trust, I'll just give you a background on that. Women's Trust is a specialist mental health charity providing free counselling and therapy for women in London who have experienced domestic abuse. They empower women to rebuild their lives after domestic abuse. 1 in 4 UK women will experience some form of domestic abuse, and it's the leading cause of depression amongst UK women. Yet they are just one of the few organisations addressing the link between domestic abuse and women's mental health. Since 1996, they have supported thousands of women from across London through free counselling, group therapy, and self-development workshops, and is a fantastic partner of ours as well. Then we have Lena Akbar. Lena Akbar is the Minerva manager overseeing North London and London Diversion. Lena is usually based in our North London Women's Centre, where women are able to meet with their key workers, attend one-to-one or group sessions. Previously, she worked within the Advances London Whole Housing Partnership as the financial and debt coordinator within our broader domestic abuse services. So a wealth of knowledge there. And Phoebe Lill is the Senior Policy and Campaigns Manager with extensive experience in policy development, campaign strategy, and stakeholder engagement. Phoebe specialises in evidence-based policy creation, leading Advance's policy and public affairs work with a focus on community-based solutions for women experiencing abuse and trauma. A dedicated advocate for social change, she also serves as the chair of governors for her local infant school, specialising in special education needs and disabilities. So welcome, everybody. I can get straight through into the questions. So I'll ask each of the panelists one question each, and then we'll kind of go into a broader discussion. Let me just get my questions. So I'll start with I'll start with Lena. Can you tell us a little bit about Advance's Women's Centres and their role in supporting women in the community?
Thank you, Leonie. Thank you for a wonderful introduction to everyone, and welcome everyone to the webinar. So Advanced Women's Centres, they are vital. They're a vital role in supporting women in the community by providing a safe, and a welcoming space where women can access tailored support and guidance. These centres are designed to empower women to overcome challenges and make positive changes. Within the criminal justice system, it's a lifeline because they come to a space which is basically a place which is non-judgmental. It's a place they can meet someone who is going to understand their journey and understand how that's impacting on them. But there are some key features and roles of the centre. One of them is like a holistic support that we give. That's short term and long term. Some women may come to the women's centres and they may be with us less than 6 months, some a year. And so we are constantly sort of seeing women who are provided that support, and then they are able to move forward with their life or to understand the challenge and know where to get that support. So we address issues such as domestic abuse, housing insecurity, financial challenges, mental health, and we have within Advance we have 8 pathways in which we support women. So not just the ones that I've mentioned, but drugs and alcohol, education and training. We look at attitudes, thinking, and behaviour, and all of these are workshops that are tailored to the women. So they're not workshops that, you know, one size fits all. We're very good at looking at what the women's needs are on an individual level and being able to tailor a workshop or a program, and for them to be able to attend these at the women's centres. So we have things like, you know, our programs are there to empower women, like I said, and they're focused. So we have, I'll give you a very small example. We have something like the I Am course, which is something that's in-house. It's our activity coordinators who actually run the women's centres, who are delivering this program, and it's looking at healthy relationships with themselves, with the family, with community. We have our key partners who come in. So we have a collaborative approach to the use of our women's centres. So it's not just our staff members and key workers who are using those centres, but it's people who we partnership with. And they are people like Clean Break, In Spirit, and I'm having a sudden mind, like Working Chance, Birth Companions. They will come in and they will work with women either in groups and in some cases on a one-to-one, giving them that support that they need. So, for example, if we take some, you know, an organisation like Birth Companions, if a woman is prenatal, postnatal, has had a loss of a baby, or needs support with children who are in care and they need someone to talk to, you know, they will give that support and we will provide that link. And I'm going a little bit everywhere with this because the pointers are coming out of my mind. It just reminded me of what one of our women said. They said that if they hadn't come to a women's centre, they would not have had that opportunity or that knowledge or that signpost or that support had it not been for Advance's what we deliver on. You know, for them to come in and be told, well, look, we can get you mental health support, we can get you education and training, we can support you with what your challenges are. They really appreciate that and they leave far more empowered. Also, it's a safe space. It's a women-only centre. So we're very aware that these women who are either have come from domestic abuse or through the criminal justice system, and we know from our figures that are coming out that a lot of women who can't go through the criminal justice system have an underlying, have been or are domestic abuse victims or survivors. And so we know that we are working with them on that level. And so they come to the space knowing that you know, we ensure that there are no men around and that they feel safe and they know that what the address is and how to come in and how to leave. And I think that's really important for them. Also, the women's centres, it's a place where they can get practical resources. So not only do they come in and they're able to tap into the programs that we run or to be able to meet with their key workers, but we also offer them clothing. We also offer them hygiene products. We also offer them baby clothes. We also offer them, in some of our centres, we have washing machines and tumble dryers. You know, if you're really struggling, come in and wash your clothes and, you know, be able to have some normality in your life and be able to feel like, you know what, I can actually be part of that society. They get to meet peers, you know, peer mentors who have lived experience. So they become part of a community. There are so many levels of advantages and benefits for the women who come through our women's centre, that the majority of the time, actually, I would say nearly all the time, we always have this sense of, I'm so pleased I got in touch with Advance. I'm so pleased I met other women who are going through what I'm going through. I'm so pleased to be part of the art therapy. I've been able to learn something that makes me far more confident, which I never knew before. So these are the I think these are the, I wouldn't say rewards, but the benefits for these women to be able to enable themselves. Because what we want is when they leave us, we feel that they've left us enabled, empowered, and they understand where they need to go. Sorry, I'm really stretching out on the Women's Centre, so forgive me if I'm covering other questions. But, you know, I'm very passionate about the Women's Centre, and I think that it does actually have so many benefits. And yeah, so I think that covers it. I mean, we know that in cost effectiveness, we know it's far better, especially women going through criminal justice systems, to come through Advances, you know, Minerva team or diversion, and be able to be supported through Advance and to be able to come to the Women's Centre, because it's just far more cost effective than taking them through the criminal justice system and going to courts and to prisons and all the rest of it. So yeah, I think that is what I would like to say what a women's centre does. But you know, I'm more than happy to expand on each part of what we do as we go through the session.
Of course, and I mean, I'm sure we will as we go. But I thought the passion has shone through, which is great. And Phoebe, can you kind of expand on that and kind of talk about some of those key components of what makes a successful women's centre, kind of in the long-term support and empowerment of women?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Lena's done an amazing job there of setting out why these spaces are so important. I think what I would add to that is that everything we do at Advance, whether it's within our criminal justice Minerva services or other criminal justice services, whether it's through our domestic abuse support or the targeted support for young women and girls, is kind of 5 key principles. And those principles are positive regard for the person that we are supporting, consistent communication and support with that person and with the professionals around them. Practical help and emotional support. So again, a lot of the things that Lena's talked about there, to really make a tangible difference for the women and girls that come to us. Peer support is a really, really important kind of aspect where women can attend our centres, and either in a group setting or on a one-to-one basis, they can get support from somebody who has lived experience of the issues that they are themselves dealing with. We find that that is such an important part of building that longer term support, building that trust in the centre, in the service, and in the support that we can give for women. And then finally, it's advocacy and partnership. So again, as Lena's touched on, we work with a range of expert partners across all of our different services functioning out of the Women's Centre, and I think we couldn't do it without them. And I think that's both on the kind of the third sector side, the charity side, but also with those statutory agencies as well. I think what's really powerful is when statutory professionals, whether that's probation practitioners, sexual health workers, even housing officers and other kind of local authority figures, come and co-locate within those centres so that women can access all of the support that they need in one place. You know, we're seeing that work in really positive ways in some of our regions, where particularly for probation, for example, the probation practitioner will organise to see all of their female clients on one day in the Women's Centre. And not only is that kind of more efficient in many ways, but the experience for the women is fundamentally different. The Women's Centres are, as I've said, you know, positive, warm, engaging, welcoming spaces. There's artwork, there's poetry, there's a full kitchen, and as Lena said, some of those other facilities as well. You know, perhaps in some of those other statutory settings, that is not the case, and just for kind of understandable reasons. But for women to be able to just get a glass of water during an appointment or have a cup of tea, that is absolutely fundamental to, again, building that longer term relationship for them to know that these spaces are safe, where they can get that practical and tangible support, but also receive that really holistic kind of emotional support response as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think just highlighting just how important those safe spaces are. And so, I mean, you are a representative of a fantastic partner organisation that we have in Women's Trust. So could you just tell us a little bit about Women's Trust and how they work with women affected by domestic abuse and other forms of gender-based trauma?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me, Leonie. I think, as you said in the beginning, so Women's Trust is a specialist mental health charity for women who have experienced domestic abuse. I think the way we detach ourselves is that our work is very much focused on the intersection of domestic abuse and mental health. And because we kind of acknowledge how important that is. And what we want is to help women to address the emotional and psychological impact of domestic abuse. And for that, we kind of have developed a very specific therapeutic approach, which is kind of based in this intersectional understanding, which enables then women to recover from the emotional and mental damage caused by domestic abuse, and aim to empower women to rebuild their life from abuse. And we know that the domestic abuse impact on mental health has far wide consequences, and not only on the women, but on the children, the families, and communities. And we know that women and that have experienced violence, abuse, and exploitation are at an increased risk of experiencing inequality. And that really talks about mental health problems, and drug and alcohol, depression, anxiety, suicide, ideation. And so we very much kind of hone on that link between mental health and domestic abuse, because we believe very strongly how important that is. We are a women-led organization, and the focus again is to, the same as the women's centers, is to provide a safe space where trust can be earned and built, and then women can really work on feeling empowered and in their kind of psychological and emotional health. We know that if the emotional and psychological consequences of abuse, if left unaddressed, can last a lifetime for the woman and the children. Domestic abuse survivors are 3 times more likely to suffer mental illness. I think it's really important to think about that. And by looking at that, also, if you think about the criminal justice system, this empowerment also is to enable that engagement with the community and with the services that we are hoping to provide in that sense. Our specialty therapeutic approach is trauma informed. What does that mean? Is that we acknowledge the perpetrator abusive behavior is the root cause. So it's not about blaming. It's about being able to recognize what happened. And we have specialist trained counselors that with deep understanding of domestic abuse that are here to support the women. So it's not about blaming or holding the client, the woman responsible for the situation. So it's not about what did you do to cause this, but we know what has happened to you. So it's about taking a humanistic approach, an holistic approach, viewing people as competent to resolve this challenge and to recognize women's potential and be able to shift their lives in a positive way. The empowerment, and again, providing tools for that to happen. we also, the way we do this is by providing one-to-one counseling, but we also do provide groups. We provide workshops. We have also, I think it was mentioned how important it is, the role of peer support, and we also have peer support groups. But we also provide training to professionals, because what we know also in terms of, for instance, the criminal justice system, is the lack of understanding about domestic abuse and its impact. And I think one of the main work that needs to be done, and that we very kind of also passionate in doing, is being able to provide this awareness, this training because this also will help in this journey of empowerment, this journey of creating a different narrative in their lives. So yeah, I think I'm talking too much already. Yeah.
Oh no, you're not at all. It's just such a great summary of what you do. I mean, there's so much. There's so much. I suppose just picking up on some of that. Can we kind of talk about, because at this part we kind of open up the questions to all of you, and you jump in as you see fit, and I will pick on you if need be. So can we just kind of talk about how women's centres provide more than just kind of immediate safety for survivors of abuse and trauma, and kind of, I suppose that feeds into some of the workshops that we spoke about, as the webinar is called More Than Safety. So I suppose it's just kind of tapping into to what a women's centre can do for those women who've experienced trauma.
I mean, I'd just like to add here is that I think for me, what we see is that I don't think the women's centres are just for immediate safety. I know that we do have women who come in who have, when I was in the housing team, we would see women come in saying, I've literally just left my home and I don't know where to go, and we'd be phoning around to find them a place, and that was the kind of the immediate safety part. But the majority of the women that are coming through our doors, I think, at the women's centres are ones who are looking for more holistic support, who are looking for that emotional and psychological support. They're looking to be directed because they really don't know where else to go with regards to, how do I make it right? How do I not? Majority of the women that we see, they're not interested in reoffending. We know that from the women that we meet, the likelihood, especially the women that are coming through the criminal justice system, their reoffending goes down, and we are seeing those numbers. And so I think that for us, it's about skill building. So we're looking at how do we build their skills? How do we get them to understand that how they write a CV, or how they, we have workshops like creative writing. How can they learn something new? Because what we have to remember is that when women go through the criminal justice system, one of the hardest things is to get employment. So we have to kind of look at revisiting what their skills that they have, and giving them the space, and for them to feel like they're in a non-judgment, it's just building on what Sona said, is that building a space where it's a non-judgmental place. It's okay to get it wrong. It's okay not to know. It's okay not to feel like you have to know everything, or you have to get yourself back on your feet immediately. It's about having that softly approach, but yet we're giving them the space to be heard, to be understood. And I think we've all touched on it. It's about the peer support, the women who are coming through the centres, but it's also about our key workers, giving them that space, having that time with them, and saying, what, actually, have you thought about this? It's not pushing them in a direction, it's giving them the options and saying, what really works for you? And I think that is where the women's centres really outshine any kind of other support service that is there for women who are coming out of the criminal justice system, because there's also the issue of stigma. And it's helping them understand how they can work through that. It's working with them about how they've lost maybe their families or their children, because they've gone through the criminal justice system. We know from different cultures that looks different in different cultures. So it's about providing that space for them to say, this is a non-judgmental space. it's okay for you to say what you want. We're not here to make a judgment on that, or we're not here to judge you on that. We're here to say, okay, how would you like to move forward? This is what we can offer, and what we can't offer, maybe we can find something for you. Because we don't just leave them at the doorstep, you know, we don't just say, oh, okay, thank you, you've done the workshop. It's more like, okay, we're here now. What more can we do? And if we can't, we always signpost them. We always get them in contact. We're there to support them, to ensure, like I said before, you know, when they leave empowered. They understand where they're going. So I do think that and just to say, the community that they build, because where they've maybe have lost a community due to what they've been through, they gain a community at the centre. So when they come to art therapy, there's like anything between 6 to 10 women there attending, speaking, chatting. We have coffee mornings. And they have these connections. Oh my gosh, that happened to me with my child. Or, oh my gosh, that happened to me with my mother, or whatever the relationship situation is. Or I'm finding it really difficult to get work. And women's centres are definitely not just a space for immediate safety. I would say more so it is about the long term. Let's get them, enable them. And we're not codependents. We are very much about, right, these are the steps you'll be taking. So I do think that there is, for me, it goes way beyond immediate safety.
Yeah, if I actually can reinforce that, absolutely. It's just an example. Today we actually had a heart therapy workshop, and one of the women attending, apart from the emotional side, said this is the first time that I actually felt 100% safe, but also that I felt that there's something that more that I need to do. There's something more that I can do, but also something more that I need to do, whether it's going back to therapy, whether it's finding that, because she used to do art before, because of everything that happened, she kind of blocked it and stopped being creative. So kind of discovering who they were, but also this new person that actually have these skills, that actually can develop, that actually can move forward and feel empowered to do that. So it's definitely a space that fosters, you know, not only trust, but safety, but also kind of a glimpse of what can be.
Absolutely. And I suppose kind of amongst all that, I mean, how do women's centres kind of address some of those diverse needs that I think, Lena, you touched on, particularly from, you know, for women from different minoritized or marginalized communities? I wonder if you could expand a bit on that.
Right, so I think it's important, especially at Women's Centre, we find it, Women's Trust is really important for us that, you know, our team and who we are also demonstrates who we want to support. Because I think there's something, you know, unique in feeling represented. And that's why we have all our therapists and you know, from diverse communities, but also being able to understand the different needs of the different women in communities, and not just cultural, but you know, any needs that they come to us, and being able to learn from that and being able to adapt. So I think it's really important, not just therapeutically, but as a center, as any kind of service in organization, to be able to be aware of these differences and be able to, as much as possible, cater for them. And if we can't, then what is it that we need to change? You know, because, you know, it's important to understand that we are here for the women, and they are the best source of information also about what they need. So being able to foster that, I think it's really important.
Absolutely. Lena?
Yeah, I just want to add on that. I actually just build on that, is basically, I think Sonia's right. I think one of the strengths that we have at Advanced is that we are quite a diverse team, but also we do sit as a team and we go through cases and we understand if there are language barriers, you know, what support can we give them? I know that we have an interpretation service, but also looking at the fact that there are women from different faith groups, how do we ensure that they are able to express how they feel and be understood? It's because some women may feel like, oh, I can't talk about that because that's to do with my community or that. And so, but we encourage that and we provide that training. And the great thing is that key workers will overlap with it. If they don't know something, you know, that we as a team, we work really well together in the sense of, guys, I've got this, you know, how can I support this woman? Some key workers will come in and say, actually, I've got experience of that. Can I come into a session with you? Or would you like me to speak to the woman that you're supporting? So I think we work very well in supporting women with complex needs. Yes, we could do more. Yes, there should be more, much more training. We need that constantly. It cannot be a one-stop, we've been trained and that's it. It should be a renewal every so often. So we are in line with what is happening in the outside world. But overall, I think, yes, we do. We are very considerate and we're very aware. And I think within Advance, I can see that we're quite diverse in the languages that we have and the people that we have, and the fact that we have other services that we can tap into to ensure that we are trying our level best to meet those needs.
Absolutely, and I think that's where partnership is so important, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Did you want to jump in there?
I mean, I think, yeah, as Sona said, it's crucial that if there is a specified need that an organisation isn't able to meet, that they're working with the specialist organisations. I think, you know, again, that's, as I mentioned, a real key ethos of Advance, and has always, I think, been one of the ethos principles is that you know, people come with intersecting identities that have to be acknowledged and have to be appreciated. I think we've shown, particularly within our domestic abuse services, that real commitment to working with specialist by and for organisations wherever we possibly can, because again, it increases that, it increases the trust, it increases the feelings of safety for those people if they feel like it's a psychologically safe place for them to come, because their experiences are gonna be heard and understood. That's ultimately the goal of what we're trying to achieve. I mean, I think I will say as well that you know, not perhaps a marginalised community, but one of the key ways in which we tailor our support is for younger women and girls through our young women and girls services. We know that the girls that we work with who you know start at the age of around 13 have very specific needs and take quite a lot of time to perhaps want to engage with a service that they perhaps don't see as relevant to them, but through the kind of dedicated work of our specialist key workers and young women's advocates, they can see that somewhere like a women's centre can be you know, available to them in a safe place. And we've been able to build up that community and now have groups for younger women, which again is things that are perhaps a bit more tailored to their interests and tailored to what they want to get involved with, whether that's employability, but even things like makeup skills workshops, things like that, where they can bond with their peers. Again, it comes back to that peer support and feeling heard and seen.
And that, I mean, that takes me really nicely on to that importance of peer support. I mean, I know obviously some of our peer mentors do run groups and kind of work with our comms team and so on. So I just wonder if you could expand on that importance of peer mentorship and peer support. I'll let anyone jump in, or I'll pick on you. Lena, maybe?
Okay. Well, with peer support, I think what we're looking at is the fact that initially it is about the building of the trust, because I think if women don't feel this person doesn't know my journey, but then they have a peer there who has lived experience, who's in that session with them, they can build that trust quite quickly. It also takes away, I mentioned this before, but it also takes away the stigma, because you've got someone who says, I've been through that, I'm now here, so I'm happy to share my journey, and therefore, and you know, and they can talk about the issues of stigma or loss that they've had and how they've overcome that. I think that with the peer support, it is about, we're looking very much at the women who are coming through the system, but let's just look at the peers themselves. It's demonstrating how that they have come through Advance and they've had the support with key workers coming into the Women's Centre, and how they are empowered, how they are far more confident, how they then move on to jobs and are able to conduct their life as they always have maybe wanted to, and have had an unfortunate situation in their past. But I think we should also look at that, not just the women who get to meet them, but also how they have actually gained confidence. So it's all about a sense of belonging. You know, those women, they come and they meet these other women and they say, you know what, actually, there's a place where I can meet other women without having to share that with maybe family and friends, and come to the Women's Centre and then meet these women and talk about, you know, this happened to me, or this was my experience in probation, or this was my experience through the criminal justice system, you know, and they're sharing that, and they don't need to share that with anyone else. Like, if they choose not to, they have that option not to, because there's a place where they can express themselves with somebody who has lived experience, and somebody else who can say, actually, you know what, you're in a great place now because you're here and you're open-minded to have that change. So yeah, I'll give space for other people to kind of add to that, but yeah.
Does anyone else jump in there?
Yeah, I think I can just absolutely agree with what Lena said. I think it's really, peer support has such an important role in this journey of recovery and empowerment. So it is about providing a sense also of hope and reassurance.
Yeah.
When you're in a group, and will help women feeling much less isolated. You know, it doesn't have, it takes away also that, even though it's therapeutic without, you know, being a therapeutic group, but it takes away the medical side of it, the kind of a clinical thing. And so it is about sharing, it's about, you know, having lived experience, and it's about obviously promoting empowerment, because it also gives women that agency between them to take control of their health and well-being, you know, and then develop knowledge and skills because they're learning from each other, you know. So definitely an improvement in well-being.
And I wonder if I can target you, Phoebe, of if you have any kind of ideas on how peer mentorship could be strengthened, or you know, whether it's by our sector or kind of by the government or local authority.
Yeah, and I'll try not to get on too much of a soapbox, but I think what we're hearing across the criminal justice sector in particular is the challenges around things like vetting, in that getting people with lived experience into even informal volunteering roles can be really difficult, because they don't pass the level of vetting set by the Ministry of Justice in order to use that experience to support the women who need it. So I think fundamentally there's a vicious cycle there for women who want to use their experiences to help others, but are in fact blocked by those same experiences. I mean, I think in general, and I know that we'll perhaps touch on more widely some of the challenges, but to have more funding in which to remunerate peer mentors or other volunteers with lived experience would be absolutely fantastic. I think, you know, so many of our peer mentors are volunteers. We are very lucky that we have a significant number of staff at Advance who do have lived experience, who are able and willing to share their experiences. But, you know, we are a finite organisation with a finite number of roles, so we do have to rely on that volunteering role. And I think it would be in everybody's interest if we were able to provide them with a bit more money from through our kind of, whether it's through our statutory contracts or other kind of funding streams, to pay them for their time. I think it's you know, pay them for their experiences. I think those probably are the kind of the two logistical blockers there, but I think again, it's as my colleagues have mentioned, the peer mentors, the women who are choosing to share their stories, need to feel safe and in a trusted environment as well. So I think that's always front and foremost of the work that we and our partners do. But that, you know, if they're not in a safe place in which to share their experiences, then they're not going to be able to benefit others. So really is just a kind of a commitment, I guess, from us all to ensure that where women are willing and able to share their stories with others in order to help others, that they're doing so in a safe and secure way.
Absolutely. And I can see that we are running out of time, and I know we could all talk about this for a while. So I'm going to amalgamate two questions, and I'm sure we'll all have opinions on it. So one is kind of how can women's centres kind of collaborate better with other services, or how those services collaborate better with us, and then kind of within that, kind of how can funding and policy changes kind of enhance women's centres, and that might be through collaboration, to kind of for prevention and promoting empowerment. I'll let anyone jump in, or I'm happy to pick on you.
Well, I think Phoebe kind of touched on it a little bit, and I think, well, actually, I think we've been talking about it, how partnerships are so crucial for the empowerment of women and for the journey of recovery. I think it's having this open communication and acknowledging what we need from each other that will help on the work that we do. I think in terms of policies, again, it is about awareness, understanding, training, and being able to make sure that the importance of the work that we do and the importance of the impact of domestic abuse on women is clearly understood by the policymakers, I guess, so that change can be made in that sense. Yeah.
Absolutely. Lena, do you want to jump in?
I just wanted to add on the funding side. I mean, for me, I think what would be really great is to have some kind of flexible funding where we could provide more workshops around the whole digital technology. We know that we are in another era with technology, and for women to be able to have jobs in those places, because I think that is very much lacking. I would love to have a room where there's technology and they come in and they can learn about the latest AI, or workshops that will allow them to work from home, or and support them through childcare. And I think also I think for me, one of the barriers is that kind of geographical space from where they live to where our centres are, and to be able to have, be able to say, look, we will pay for your travel, or there is travel available, or they get cards from the government, or a subsidy, or something that makes them feel like this is something that I can do, and that finance and money isn't a barrier. And I do think that when distance becomes an issue, we need to look at, how do we encourage women to come in? Well, the first thing is we must offer them travel to be able to come in when they want, for a coffee morning, for a workshop, and just going back to the peers, I think just to give them some kind of accredited training that they can also leave with, I think that would be really good. So, if we had that flexible funding and that thought process, I think we could just deliver so much more to the women who are coming through our system. And as they leave and they become peers, even further. So it's just an ongoing, continuous development for us and for them and the people who come through our system. Unfortunately, our funding doesn't yet. I'm optimistic, but yeah, so hopefully, if they can look at that with what's happening in the world and moving forward with that, that would be amazing.
Absolutely. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think just again on the kind of the policy front, I think, sorry if you can hear a load of background noise from the street outside, but yeah, I think women's centres being seen as a vital community service for women, no matter what they're experiencing, whether they've got experience with the criminal justice system, whether they are seeking community-based support for domestic abuse. I think at the moment there just isn't perhaps the value placed on them, given the amount of value that they put out. So I would love to see that from kind of the cross-central government and within local governments as well.
Absolutely. I think that's a great place to end. But on that, we do have a question from Anna. So one, she said, can I check where Lena is based? So she is normally based in North London. I've got that right, haven't I?
Yes, in Finsbury.
I thought that would be quite bad. And she also wanted to ask how centres manage capacity levels, and noted that she imagines that there might be huge demand. Are there limits on how much women can use this service? Lena or Phoebe, are you able to kind of shed light on that?
I mean, it depends which service they're coming through. I mean, that's a conversation between them and the keyword. It really does depend on need. And if they have lots of needs, then if they're coming through the criminal justice system, we work with probation. So we would go back to them and say, actually, they need this many days. And then when they've completed those days, there's a wraparound service so they can continue that support. So it's difficult for me to say they get this many or that many, because like we said, it's bespoke. It's according to each woman who comes through the system, or comes through to advance. But right now, no, there isn't an issue of capacity. Right now, we would love to see more women in the Women's Centre. We want them to really integrate into the community that we have here, because all we can see is the benefits that come out from that. And clearly the women who aren't using it, there are issues of confidence. Some women don't feel confident to walk in and meet all these random, never met before women and then have to kind of converse. It's not a natural characteristic for everyone. So I think, yes, right now capacity isn't an issue for us. I think we would love to see many more women using the centre far more often. That would be ideal.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think that's a great place to end. We've done it bang on time. I just want to add that obviously our next webinar is on Thursday. So hopefully we'll see some of you there. We'll also be showing a handout kind of on this subject matter. So hopefully it'll be quite helpful alongside a jargon buster, because sometimes we can be quite jargon heavy in our sector. But I will leave it there. Thank you, Lena, to Phoebe, and to Sona. It's been great.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you
everyone.
very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.